Okay.
Good morning.
Good
Happy
morning, guys.
Wednesday. Good afternoon over
Good
in
afternoon, Chris.
France, my friend Bastien.
Yeah, you too for the US.
Our first episode of Let's Build Outbound uh, with Bastien Paul. How you doing, man?
Fine, fine. I'm really excited for this year. I was like waiting for the AI to do something great, and now I know that we can do something great. Because when I tried like early in last year, I was like, "Oh, that's good, but he's a bit dumb, so I'd pass." And now I saw that we have a lot of things now. There are a lot of things, so really excited. And you, Chris? Oh, you're speaking about the AI, so I think you're excited. So
Yes. No, you know it. I am. And it's interesting, you mentioned yesterday, I asked if you were ready for today, and you said, yes, let's get back to the basics. Um, and surprise, the basics now include how to use AI.
yeah, so basically, uh, we are using. I mean, I'm using AI every day, um, and the way I prefer to use it right now is really to reformulate things. Um, like sometimes you're like very basics as you send an email. You don't want to put the form. You want to say like, here's the thing you need to know. Now, if you want to add the hello and everything, whatever you want, just go for it. And you save a ton of time and you're just thinking about what's important or what's not important. And I think AI is really interesting because you think about what's important. And that's why I think AI have two things that is really, really where you can really leverage. It's of course one that you can automate things, but also you can think about what's really important and leave the things that are not important and that's what you were doing before, and you leave them. You just quit. You just say it's 2025 now. I don't want to do that thing anymore because it's useless. And when you think about AI, that's very great because you're thinking about the process you're doing. You're thinking about like, okay, this is my daily process. What can I automate? That's the first thing you want to do. But when you will do that process, you will say, "Hey, this part we don't care. This part is useless. This part we don't need to do that anymore." And you have the opportunity to take a step back, so back to basics, understanding what you really need to do, and then remove the useless and automate the non-brain task. And so you can focus on what's important. So that's what I'm really into AI now. It's more about, okay, you can do plenty of things really interesting and having something really personalized with the task you want, but also removing this kind of things you were doing before that's useless, really useless.
Well, first of all, I love that angle, but I'm curious, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of useless?
um, okay. Let me think about what I did. Um, so, for example, I do have some like for example, you're doing some outbound for campaigns that I am doing, and you're like, okay, you used to ponder like for 1, 2 hours of the copywriting you can do for your cold mailing campaign, for example. Um, and you were trying to do some A/B tests and things like that, but you was really like thinking about what you can do, and you decided like, for example, like 1 or 2 or 3 messages, but you send them and you don't know really what the results are. You don't see really a difference, and you're spending your time on the reporting and identifying, okay, what's working, what's not working. And with AI, you can, for example, like set a custom GPT where you show them like, okay, these are the key, what I like, what kind of copywriting I like, what kind of copywriting we tried and it didn't work, and you can automate that. You can try like for this campaign, craft a sequence for this campaign automatically, and you can create as many campaign as you want with his or with its copywriting, and you remove that apprehension you have, the thinking you have that is like sometimes uh, like closing your mind on some hypothesis you have, and you can like try new things. And the only way sometimes to make it this kind of thing work is just to try things. And what's really interesting is that you don't spend your time. You, of course, you spend your time to think about things because you're getting the results. You see what's wrong, what's not wrong, and you update your ChatGPT, and you're trying to do things you can twist at the end. But what's really interesting is that you can test plenty things at scale and spend less time trying to figure out if you win like 1 point of the percentage or 2 points, and you're really searching for the big things. And while you're doing that process, it's really interesting because when I was doing that process, I was like, okay, why my users are using Hublead. And I was more into that reflection rather than finding the good word, finding how to show my story. I was more into like, okay, I will do my, I will uh, think about my hypothesis, show different way to say it, and try it automatically. And after, like on a weekly basis, you can get a report from your AI doing like, okay, this was this was a good open rate. This was the reply rate. It seems that this copywriting was working well. We can try to do 2 or 3 different things for the next sequence, and you can try for 50, 100 people instead of 1,000, or as you did before, because you didn't have time to try different copywriting. So
So what I'm hearing in this case, like the word useless happens to be things that we do that aren't selling
yeah,
directly, I think, right? We always hear about that. Sales people are only spending 30% of the time selling, and how do we get that to be more? Like, so this is part of that 70%. And I think there's two angles to this, because what I see, and I'm seeing this quite regularly in a lack of understanding in what AI allows for, right? Like the whole concept of A/B testing and trying to standardize the way the whole campaign is run. Like we can only use this message because we know it converts, and salesperson, you can't, like, don't deviate, right? This is the message that we send out. Now we can trust the numbers. Now they're statistically significant, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
And we miss out on all of that opportunity to actually add nuance into the conversation, right? And when we get that, when we receive those emails, we know right away, like, this is canned, this is planned, this is not authentic, right? All these things come to mind. On the other side, we have people who don't standardize anything, right? And they're actually some of the best salespeople that understand. They just keep it conversational. Everything is personalized, you know. But then we don't track what's working at all, right? Because it's really
yeah,
hard when
yeah,
you
because
have 100 different emails go out,
yeah,
and then like the systems that we've had are not built to analyze that effectively. Now we have AI that can do that, right? So give your people leeway to do that, but now understand that you can. It basically switches the need from quantitative data at all costs to let people tell you what they want, because you can now analyze that qualitative data in a way that you haven't been able to before.
yeah, I completely agree. And what's really great is like what we said before, like for example, different previous calls, like sales is all about building relationships. And while you're writing emails, you're not building relationships. And as you said, like doing a lot of qualitative work with personalized things and so on is incredible. But you personalization is good if there is a context. It's no one will say, "Hey, I will answer to that email because it's so personalized. You know, my name, my company name, my domain name." It doesn't care. We don't care. What we care about is who are you, what's in it for me, and what do you want. And this thing, like what do you want and who are you, you can help people answer by building relationship with your prospect, with your partners, and so on, because they will speak about you to other people, and you can just focus on just speaking with guys, with people, and so on, and filling your AI with the content you have with like Chris, for example, with you, if I spoke to you, and the AI can craft a super template, a super email with the follow-up and the next step, because you said in your prompt that's the way you like to read, to speak and write. That's the way you want him to do. And you just like automated this demo follow-up, for example, and you're saving time because you're just you're just thinking about speaking with someone and not thinking about writing the note inside HubSpot and after doing your follow-up and when I have to do my follow-up in 1 week. You're just in the call, in the present, speaking with him or her and trying to understand, okay, what's the pain point you're having now and how my solution can help you, but you're not thinking about the after. And that's what I really was really excited with AI, because I was like, okay, if I can free myself from having that thought, having these kind of things to do, and just focusing on my call and focusing on my customer, man, I can like chain more calls and bring more value to my customers, and everyone will be so happy.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. That bringing more value to the conversation leads to better relationships. Like surprise.
Yeah.
Uh, and what that doesn't look like is like sticking to the script all the time.
Mm,
Like, because you can tell when, like, and I used to coach the sales team uh, back in 2020 when I started onboarding people to LinkedIn, right? And starting to use Sales Navigator, and people are seeing success with connections and this concept of communication preferences, right?
yeah. Okay.
Like when when the whole system is built to track email, right? And the email automatically gets synced, and now you can, fill up the rest of your CRM based on that email versus conversations in LinkedIn, which rarely are coming in to the CRM. So naturally, and that's like if you're lucky and there's some digital transformation that's happened, most of the time salesperson will just say like, "Oh, here's my phone number." Or no, actually they say, "What's your phone number so I can call you?" Even though this is our first message, right? And I
Yeah.
had to say like people on LinkedIn will get on a call, right? But when they engage with you first, and let's say you've tried to call, you've emailed, and you've sent a LinkedIn connection request, and they respond to the connection request and they respond to your message. That means at that moment in time, they want to talk to you on LinkedIn, not anywhere else. That doesn't mean you can't give them value in the first couple of messages. And they'll say, "Yeah, I want to talk to you about this more." And
Yeah.
that
Sure.
is the trigger, right? Now it's like, "Oh,
Mm,
great. Here's the calendar. Like, let's get on a call." Now they give you permission to engage further, right? And all of this right now, when you're in the moment and you can just let the conversation go the way it needs to, and you bring that into the CRM using the help of AI, those are the true communication preferences that you can understand.
yeah, I do think like as you say, I don't push for a demo to when I outreach on LinkedIn, I'm just trying to just discuss and of course, as you said, like bring value, show a bit of your product, but better understand what they do. Um, and of course, like having a presence on LinkedIn, as we said before, it's really important because when they will see your name, see your company, they will say, ah, I already saw some post about them and so on. But what's really important with because with the AI thing and so on, also because it reminded me when you speak a bit earlier, like the back to basics and so on. It's like since everything will be automatically created, like we have it for text, images, then you will have it for videos and so on. We'll be back to what humans are doing since the beginning of the earth, is trusting other human. And so the one who will win is the one that is building trust and brand around him or herself, as I said, and use AI to spread the word. But I think like AI is good to automate like follow up, LinkedIn messages, and so on, as long as it's written, it's used in the way you want them to want AI to use it to do it. Um, don't want AI to say bullshit to your prospect. But normally it won't happen. And you just save time, and so you can focus on delivering the best value to your customers. And and that's why I think AI is a great thing to yeah to be back to the basics, because after you will have to trust only humans and no more AI. So you will, and then you see like right now when you see for like I don't know fake news or things like that, you're more into like yeah, we're still in a world that this image can be possible. This image cannot be possible. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's not. You're not very sure. But at the end, like in 1 or 2 years, you will trust no images. So you will trust only the one who proves yourself to be trustful, to deliver the best value, a journalist, whatever you want, or a YouTube influencer and so on. So yeah, I think that's why we're back to basics and we're doing more.
Yeah, no, yeah. So it's like, where does AI like fit in then? And that's where like, let's highlight the basics. Like, and for me, in the simplest fashion, like you need to be able to connect with somebody. You need to be able
Mm,
to have a conversation, and through that, you build the relationship, right? And understand that when you ask AI to do any of those things, um, it requires an immense amount of training to the AI to be able to do it
yeah.
effectively. And the thing that it's very unlikely to be able to do, that we should try to build it so that it supports us being here. This is where I disagree with the concept of prospecting agents, right? Like, do you really want your first
Yeah.
impression with
Okay.
somebody to be from AI? Because
Yeah.
you
Okay.
see the best salespeople, and I've seen it done on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn, it can be instantaneous and very dynamic business development, where when a comment gets made and then you answer the comment, then you connect, then it's conversation. Already within like a 10-minute period, you have built a trusted relationship when there's value exchange, right? Whereas if you're letting somebody, like an SDR, for example, or something like an SDR AI agent do this for you, the ability to turn that around very quickly into value is greatly reduced. And if you don't catch it at that moment, you might miss it, because as you mentioned, this idea of you're outputting a signal. Is it valuable to me right now? What is in it for me? Right? So much of this now, in my opinion, is not just what is in it for me. What is in it for me right now? Like in this
Mm,
moment. Like if I'm not feeling, I might have had this pain last week, but if I'm not feeling it right now, I might not act on the email, right? I might not act on the message. Uh, and that's where it's like, oh my God, that's not scalable. How am I going to be active so often to be able to? That's where AI handles all the other bullshit that you spend time on so that you can be an active participant,
Mm,
right?
okay. So what you're saying is more like AI can, yeah, save your time so you can focus on content, sorry, put that content on LinkedIn, getting interaction, and then you know this is the moment for them, so you can engage conversation and sell more.
Yeah. And it doesn't
Kind
have
of.
to be for the content, right?
No, I
Like
mean,
when I
I
first,
just put a graph
right.
on it.
When I first like joined the ecosystem, I moved from inside organization to starting an agency. I found Sprocketeer, in October of 23. And, you know, even though everybody and their brother and sister and mother and father was telling me that I needed to build a list of companies and, get it into the CRM and send emails, I knew inherently being active in Slack, in a
Yeah,
Slack community, was bringing me value because I was actively understanding all the various use cases of HubSpot, the problems that people were having. I was able to add value, right, by being in the conversation, right? Now, if I would have like ascribed to the, okay, I need to do this, I need to build a pipeline, I need 1,000 leads because I'm going to get 10 closes, and I need to MQL, SQL, like the Slack communities do not support that like at all,
yeah, sure.
right? And so instead of spending time in the community, I'm spending time in the CRM, I'm spending time with process, I'm spending time with admin, which has value, but when it's chosen over the active community participation, that's when you're missing the boat, in my opinion, right? And that's where AI can do a lot to say, like, even if it's just copying and pasting the Slack conversations, right? To understand and then start to, review, and the takeaways that you mentioned, start to pull those out,
Yeah,
because it's very hard to, like, in order to connect and converse and build relationships, you have to be outward facing. You have to know what what it has to be for the customer, right? And if you can understand what they're doing, and one thing I did over the break was kind of reimagine, this journey. Like, if I can't just keep saying I hate the word leads, right? I got to, what are we doing instead, right? It's like, well, I like to identify, like, where are they at in the journey? If they're just in the audience, but you talk about topics that they care about and they might be able to learn something. All right, their audience and they're learning. That I am learning, right? If they've got a problem, they're researching into the problem, right? They're a
yeah,
researcher and they're saying, I am researching right now. I might engage with you, but I'm not buying. I don't want to hear from a salesperson. Don't contact me just because I registered for your webinar, right? But if I am on the webinar and I say, I'm I'm very interested. I want to talk to sales,
yeah,
right? Don't send me some bullshit follow-up that totally misses the point that I said that, like, live on the webinar, right? I expect to see somebody come in and say, "Hey, saw your question. This is the initial value I can give you, but I would love to have a call." Right? That's
yeah. So
recognizing me as a hand raiser, and I'm not just in your MQL wheel now,
yeah, it's like
right?
your marketing is trying to create a relationship with your prospect and customers, and when the salespeople get right in the middle of this relationship, it's like, don't fuck with this lead and try to make him or to make them like unique. I mean, like, yeah, we have content. We know what we want because you use that content, you read that content, and you read that content. So we are kind of aware of what you want. And here's my play value for you. Like my value for you is that I have the design offers for you, so you can solve this pain point you were interested in, and I will show you how to use it to better implement in your structure, in your company, and so on. But
Yeah.
I do agree
And this is
with
where,
that.
like, when they do that, like, the closer you get to real time reacting to that, the easier it is to turn it into value. And I think that's where it's easy to overthink it and say, oh, they're on the webinar. I don't want to,
Mm,
mess with them. But when you bring the value first, right? And it's in their best interest and they want it, right? You can get people to book right then,
yeah,
right?
sure.
And how often do we say, like, no, we got to wait because we got to process the leads. Then we got to get the conversion rate. We want to make sure marketing gets attributed to this, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's completely independent of what the customer's journey actually looks like, right? And that's when you're talking, when you open with, like, what are the useless things, that we do, right? This focus on always needing a conversion point that we can measure is so problematic because it just gets in the way of natural conversation, right?
Yeah.
And natural flow, right? And when we try to force that in, like, oh, I need an email that does this specific thing because then it's a key trigger on the journey. Like, it's like, no, we just need to be able to talk to people and share value back and forth. And then provide that consistently throughout the process, right? And that's the thing. Like, if AI is there alongside you, it can it can really, really help you do that. And you should be able to, like, my thing is, like, all the focus has been on prospecting bots. If marketing and sales have done their job, right, which gets a lot easier when it's human beings doing this part, and there's trust, why do we need them at the close? Like, at that point, if there's trust and the person just needs help buying, like managing T's and C's, like getting the quote right, like, that's where AI, that's the standardized, consistent part that you
Yeah.
cannot screw up because you did all this work for trust, right? To build trust in the relationship. Now, like, using AI to solve for the why is it so hard to close this now? Why is there so much friction, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mm.
Um,
And I just want, like, just remind me because as you said, like about trust, and just before you said, like, I don't want to pay, you didn't say with this word, but as I understood, like, I don't want to pay AI agents because I don't build trust for you. And I didn't think about that, but I totally agree with you. Like, I prefer to have AI to automate things on my behalf because I know that one, first, I will do myself. So the content they will share is the content I want to share. But then also for second is that I build trust over my person. I build trust. I show my profile, I show my name, I show my company and so on. And if you hire AI agent, let's call it, it's just an outbound agency, but just automated their work. So at the end, it's just an agency. Building a fake profile, outreaching everyone and scheduling demo for me. It's like, what's the difference with me doing email automation or doing AI on my profile? And at the end, I prefer, as you said, to have this thing on my profile. Of course, it's more difficult because I have to review and so on. It's more difficult for me, but at least I will create something around my brand and around my person rather than AI agents where you create nothing and you build no trust. And at the end, whenever even if you churn from the company, they will have the email and you don't have the email. They will have the person and you don't have the person, don't know what to do with it, even if you have it. So That's something I didn't think about, but one good argument against AI agents, I prefer to have like, because for me, AI agent, when you look at it, every time it's like well, you just automate one simple task of one job and you call it an AI agent. Let's call it an agency, and you, you just automate it on your side. I don't care. Like internally, you can automate, but it's just an agency, you know. So yeah, that's why I don't like really. I don't trust for AI agents. I mean, especially for sales. For others,
Well,
maybe that would be good.
right. And that's where I think there's lots of places for value, but it's like for me it should be so obvious like when people understand the value of a first impression, right? Like why would you want an agent? Like I mean for me it goes back to why the hell would you want an SDR who doesn't
Mm,
know shit like
yeah, I do
making the
agree
first
with that.
impression, right? And that's where we go back to this whole system that's just built not for building trust, right? And like but like I think a spot that you brought up, you mentioned you had you know, six calls yesterday and you wanted to do follow up and it felt like a lot. I think that's where it's once you're in, like once that's where if you provided so much value on the call, right? That I know that you do, like people there's just so much leeway you have at that point. And obviously you
Mm,
don't want to take advantage of it, right? But when you can say, like, because for me, so much doesn't get done because we're worried about the way it's going to be perceived and understood and things like that. And that causes like huge communication gaps, right? Where instead, if you have an understanding, like let's say at the end of every call, you say, this was great. Right after this call, you're going to get an automated summary and, you know, list of things from AI, right? I'm not going to touch it because I think it's more important that you just immediately get the recording and you
mm.
have access to the information, right? I'm
Yeah, I
still
see
going to
what you
do,
mean.
you know, that I'm going to keep giving value because we just had value on the call. I'm going to, you know, either it's the follow up call, I'll be ready, but I'm going to review the call too, right? But right out of the gate, just to make sure we're we're on the same page and stay aligned, here's the automated summary, right? And if you could set that expectation, I think it means the world. Like that's where when you try to set it up to suggest it's coming from you and it's like 98% AI, that's when you can start to get into trouble. I'll say there's a way to do that. Like when you get really good at AI, like the outputs just they're they're really good now. But that's where it's
Yeah.
you decide where you're using your time, and there's a learning curve to be able to get AI to do that. But until then, we're helping clients and prospects and the humans that we engage with learn as well. Like they should not devalue a summary just because it came from AI,
Yeah,
right?
I see. I think I mean, for me, I devalue a lot because it says it's AI. In the end, you know that it's just a if then thing. Like they say, like, hey, we like you're starting with AI, but in the end, it's more like they have some questions, some answers, you know, and they're just adding greetings and goodbye at the end. You see what I mean? Like, and you didn't really train the AI, so you ask a question and you know that you won't get a good answer, so you prefer to speak with someone. And and most of the time when you're on a website, you hate when the customer service is not good. Like I hate that. I hate to go like why I love Amazon. Because Amazon, when you have a problem, they solve it. You don't have to find the button. I don't know where is it. You want to chat with someone, you chat with someone, you ask a question, they answer to you, and they solve it. And that's why I think, like, I mean, that's why Amazon is working is incredible. Because every time you have an answer, you have a question, you have an answer. And so I think like plenty of websites, SaaS and so on, and maybe that's why when I have a chatbot, I'm like, or AI chatbot, thing like that, I'm really scared because I know that it won't deliver the same value that I want, the same value as Amazon. And that's why, for example, on our chat, and I don't want to automate it right now, but I want to chat on our website so people can speak to me directly. You have a question, you have an answer. Bye. I mean, like you're not here to spend time on a chatbot that I misconfigured and you're just looking for the answer. So that's why I really don't like AI chatbot. But of course, as you said, if it's done in a good way, maybe I can fall in love again.
Well, that's where
But-
it's like we've got experiences, at least I do, where it's done well, right? But again, like we've talked about in the past, like like I remember this use case described at Inbound where these two chatbots like replaced like 700 people,
Mm,
right? But then they talked about how long it took to get the chatbots right. And it's because obviously, like your processes weren't great. You didn't have the content you needed to
mm,
probably even serve your 700 people. That's why you
yeah,
needed 700 people,
yeah,
right?
sure, yeah,
And that's where the work to be done to get the bot to work is crucial. And I just talked about an update in HubSpot, earlier today, where you can the customer agents, you can say, answer this, don't answer this, right? If this is the topic, it's sensitive and we need a human to handle it every time. But if these topics come up, here's the knowledge base articles, here's the easy stuff, right? Because that's the black and white stuff. Just like you say you've had bad experiences with AI agent and chatbots, I've had bad experiences with humans that can't get away from their script and got to
yeah.
ask me all the questions that they should have in their CRM already,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So
That's
that's
true.
where it's understanding the journey of if it's a help desk scenario or it should be an easy break fix. Like I know you're going to give me a link, right? Don't make me tell you my life history as a customer just so you can send me this knowledge base link,
Yeah.
right? That's where there's moments to fit it in. And again, we come back to understanding the journey, especially on a website. I mean, this has always been a challenge. Like if you haven't defined your user experience journey to know when they're going to click on the chat and what on that page is likely to tell you what they're going to want to talk about. Because it was always interesting to me, and we still deal with this. This is a part of digital transformation, right? I would ask the question of like, if like to move people beyond like why a salesperson would spend time manning a chat, right, for a website, and how it's just immediately they think of it as a waste of time, like salesperson should be doing something else, like it's just like. And then I say like, what, like would it be okay to have a 45-minute conversation in a chat that led to a win, like a closed one deal,
Mm,
right, which happens, right? And that's where you accept the fact that the user in that moment wants to talk to you through chat, right? And they don't need an email, they don't need a call, right? If you answer
yeah.
it, like they got to this point because they're on this pricing page, right? They've shown buying intent, not because you bought it from some like
Some
Zoom
data
info or
provider.
some other
Yeah.
place, right? Like they're here now. And if you can serve them here and now, like your most knowledgeable people close
Yeah.
those deals in those moments, right? So finding these spots in the process is so important. And that's where taking the time with AI right now to give it that information, it will help you find those points in the process and tell you, like, this is when the human should stay involved. This part over here, I can handle that for you.
Yeah.
right? And then continue to update
Uh,
and learn, right?
yeah, I like the, as you said, like this topic I can answer, this topic I cannot answer. That's something I wanted to do. Like you feed with knowledge base of your AI. It's kind of like he's reading it reads the topic. He say, okay, he say I can answer. Then you, and this is basic question like for us, for example, like which permission do I need to use Hublead? When I answer to that, I'm like, okay, I'm useless doing that, but I don't have any other people doing this job. But when I see someone going on the chat and say, hey, we're using that tool and that tool, how can it fit inside our safe stack? You know that your AI won't do that. You know that you have to speak to say, okay, so this tool is just it's more for that thing. We can replay that one and so on. So, but I like the idea of the topic distribution, like human, not human, AI, human, like practical thing, AI, really like in-depth topic where you need some reflection and so on, then you use human.
Yeah. And this is where again it's about what's valuable for the customer or the
Yeah,
user, right? And not,
we should
oh, I don't like that
say like
conversation, so
let's
I'm gonna
let's
have
build
AI
value
do it.
for we should say like let's build value studio instead of let's build media. Every
Right.
5 minutes we speak about values.
Well, that's like, I mean, honestly, if and I have faith that we will, but that's the best kind of outbound, right?
Yeah, sure.
Is bringing value first, right? And you keep seeing that all over the place. For me, at least, like people understand that you need to bring value to the relationship as quickly as possible, but somehow it gets separated from, oh, if I'm doing outbound, I don't like it's so hard for me. Like it's the way that you're doing the outbound, right? And that's where I think in 2025, it's probably your last chance to transition on your own accord before like I anticipate AI agents and the AI developers and the products that are coming out and like I hope they get to a point where you try to ask an AI agent to do some garbage sales outreach, and it's like, "No, I'm not doing that." Like like like, it's not gonna
uh,
work, bro.
yeah,
Like,
if
sorry.
it
I don't
happens, so
wanna
it's so funny.
like, I'm not gonna
I
hurt
have I have some
your
standards, human. Okay, back off.
Exactly, like, no matter how much you train me, like, that email doesn't work, right? Uh Because we're getting so much
That's
data
good.
right now. I
That's
guarantee
good
we're
idea.
getting a shit ton of data right now,
Yeah, sure.
all the
Wow.
inboxes that are
Mm.
filling up, right? And it's just a mess. Meanwhile, there's just a lot to learn. So I'm not saying don't do it. Don't use these tools. Don't try to understand. Like you definitely want to understand what's happening because
Mm.
the salespeople that figure this out will beat the salespeople that don't, right? Because they
Yeah, right.
naturally have more time to have the relationships to bring the value, to even figure out new ways to bring value,
Mm.
right? And that is, in a lot of cases, becoming active on LinkedIn, becoming active in the Slack communities, creating time like for that, right? Um,
Yeah, that's true because with like AI can really like increase your not performance but your appearance, like the number of times people can see you. Since you can automate follow-up, you can automate, I don't know, chat, you can automate plenty of things. And if you just get rid of this AI agents and you do it on you, it can like, yeah, increase the number of times you appear in front of customers, even for posting on LinkedIn. If you do, you reformulate, things like that. And so, yeah, I think, as you said, like the great value of AI, it's more into that, using AI to shine, I say, rather than just automate things like with no real value or having an AI chatbot or so. Also, it's more about showing yourself and showing giving value, of course, but showing yourself to more prospect, to more people uh, than before. Because like if you, what I like when I speak with a sales is that he gets my context, gives me a solution, and I have a proper follow-up. And like I know, for example, I think I get the context, I think I deliver value, but I know that into the follow-up, I don't have really time for that. So it, at the end, it's okay because if they got the value and they know what they want, they will ask me for things. But maybe I could, in my follow-up, give more value. Maybe like knowledge base or this tuto, this thing I already saw it somewhere else, and I can speak to them. So I think I want for me like for January more working on that, like doing better follow-up for my prospect and old prospects, uh, rather than like blasting code emails everywhere. So that we
Yes.
do too, of course, it's important, but my mind more into follow-up rather than this.
Oh, I can't wait till it's 2026 and we're no longer talking about emails. Um, uh, yeah, no, I think you got it because that's where like the automated follow-up part with the summaries and stuff like that, like it provides two opportunities, in my opinion. And that
Hmm.
is one, the customer, the client, the prospect, whoever can see it right away and they can correct the record. Um, because that happens all the time. Like human beings misunderstand, misinterpret what was said like all the time. And the farther you get away from the call, like the harder it is to remember. But also that correction point or that yes and point that you can take as the salesperson saying like
Yeah,
either, oh, I see the summary says this, but that's not how I understood it. Like which like can you help like dig into that? Or it's like we talked about this on the call, like this summary reminded me that we have this resource or this value or this thing to give you now, right? And I never would have gotten to that part if I was busy like focusing on the
yeah,
original follow-up,
yeah,
right?
sure.
So, as you might imagine, we're going to be talking about AI a little bit on this show in 2025.
Yeah, yeah, can't wait.
and and I think it's more important than ever, both from a uh, understanding like the collaboration between human and AI, like during a sales process, during building customer relationships. Um, but I'm sure at some point we'll get into how to set up, you know, the tools around you, the tools that you're used to using in a way that like will serve that support as well. Cause I mean, there's still like, we're just scratching the surface when it comes to LinkedIn tools, in my opinion. And that's really where, like, if you understand that it's connection, conversation, and relationship, and the conversations are happening in Slacks and on
Mm,
LinkedIn, there's so much to be done. And there's a lot of work being done on being able to take those conversations, grab all the metadata, fill in the CRM, and then start to do careful automation. Um, I'll say, but really start to enable engagement at
yeah,
just a scalable level, right? So that we don't just send out emails because that's the easiest thing to respond to for us,
yeah, sure.
right? So hopefully this was a helpful conversation. Let us know. Love to hear your feedback on any challenges you're having, with AI when it comes to outbound, or other specific outbound topics you want to hear about in 2025. It's good to see you, man. This was
Yeah, good to
awesome.
see you, Chris, and can't wait for the next episode. I hope I will have the chance and the time to try some safe follow-up AI thing. Let's see if I
Yeah, I
get
know
something.
that you will, because you got to make time for it.
Yeah,
So think about how you guys are using AI tools. Think about your outreach. Think about where the humans needed and where the AI is needed. Find those opportunities and let's grow. Have a great day,
let's
everybody.
grow.